Hi, I'm Alan Hedblum. Welcome to our show, a place to feel like you belong. During our conversation, you'll notice words and phrases appearing at the bottom of the screen. These expressions will later be explained during our follow-up segment called What'd You Say? For now, let's welcome today's guest. Our guest today is Lana Lie. Lana is the owner of the Creative Needle in Hudsonville, Michigan. We're delighted to welcome Lana to our studio today. Lana, thank you for joining us on Feel Like You Belong.
Thank you for welcoming me here, and I love to be interviewed by you.
Super. You grew up on the island of Java in
Yes.
Indonesia. Tell us a little bit about your life there. What do you remember from those days?
Well, I live in a big house. It's all marble, and I have some pictures too. And that's where the house is from my grandparents. And we have 3 families that live in that big house because the house is about a block. And I grew up there, and I was married there. And after I was married, I moved to Jakarta.
So now, were your parents successful? Were you middle class, upper middle class? How did you fit into Indonesian society?
They call it more. We are in the upper class since we have a big house, and it's all marble, and we have ancestors that it belongs to the Sultan, and you know all that. So from the old Majapahit era.
What are your best memories from those times?
It's just, we don't have much like we do now with the toys that they have, all electronic. We don't. We have to have something that, you know, that you can just buy on the road or something cheap, because my parents at that time, they don't have much. My mother worked as a seamstress too in the house. My father worked for the government, and the government there is not much. You don't earn much at all. So, and that's how I remember our lifetime and our growing up as a child. Just whatever we have there.
So then you left Java and you moved to Jakarta, the capital.
Yeah. When I went to college, and that's where I met my husband there before. So, yeah.
Now, Jakarta, Indonesia is a world away from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Correct.
What would make a person move halfway around the world?
Well, when I moved there, we have a choice where to go. The Netherlands, Canada, or America.
Why do you have to leave?
At that time, the government was a communist. So, and we know at that time, we have 2 children already, and it's not for the future of them. We're thinking about the future. It's very hard to go to college for them because you have to pay so much money, and we cannot afford that. So, and we heard a lot about America, a land of opportunities. So, in that meantime, we try to get in contact who lives here. And the one that lives here was Bing's parents. And that is still family from my husband's side. So they sponsor us, and that's why we keep in contact.
So your husband was related to local resident Bing Goy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So what do you remember about first arriving in Michigan?
It's hard to understand the English because they seems like they talk so fast. Because I learned my English is British English. So it's a little bit different. And since they're family from my husband's side, I feel more comfortable. So, but at the meantime, when we stopped in Japan, never been abroad before, and we had breakfast there because we have to stay overnight, and I don't know what to order because I've never been abroad. So when they ordered and they asked me what you want, all I know was boiled egg. And I didn't know how long and how many minutes because I never done it because we have the maids that do all that. So I told them 8 minutes. So all I got was 4 boiled eggs there and a toast and jam, and that's all I have. coffee and juices. Because I didn't know nothing about, ordering food like that.
Sure.
Because we have maids that take care of us when we're home.
And in this country, having maids is a little bit more expensive than overseas.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. What was your hardest adjustment in coming to the United States?
To be accepted.
Tell me about that.
Well, it feels like when my kids went to school in Hudsonville, and at that time Hudsonville we're one of the first one, I guess.
The first
Asians there, so my kids wasn't accepted.
And Hudsonville is a small town?
Yes, very small town.
A lot of farming community surrounding?
Correct. So they were teased, and even the principal was helping them, not to do that. From
encouraging the teasing?
No, to help them not to do that.
Okay.
Because
so was an advocate for your kids?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's what it is. And even down the street, my youngest one too, when he was born, after that, he was teased and, saying stereotyping than the kids, So, and my husband went to them and approached the kid to stop that. So, and that was my first impression when we were moving here.
Now, your kids were all born in the U.S., correct?
No, the youngest one only.
Okay.
That was born, yeah.
So, for them, because growing up, they came fairly young to the U.S.
Yes,
okay.
They were only 2 and 3 years old.
Okay. So, culturally, linguistically, they became Americans fairly easily.
Right. Because I want to teach them English because they learn only the Bahasa, Indonesian language. So at that time.
Did you maintain speaking Bahasa?
Yes, I still do.
Okay.
Besides that.
How is your kids
No,
Indonesian today?
I wish I taught them, and I didn't keep it up.
Okay.
So they don't know. And they know a few words, but not much. So.
Have your kids talked to you about what it's like sort of having a shoe in each culture? Because at home, life is Indonesian. Outside, it's Midwest American.
Yes, I did. I tried to teach some of the cultural thing, like the food thing more, but not growing up, the education, and so it's different. And because with my mother too, it's the Chinese way that they don't have the love surrounded, that they don't hug or like we do here. It's more, they do material things when they present, their love. It's different way like that. So with them now, I try to tell them, I love you. Well, we never have. I never heard that from my mom. It's a different way. So
a different way of showing connection, showing affection.
Yes, affection.
Sure. Did your kids talk about what it was like, sort of straddling this identity, because they're the ones who at school they're trying to fit in, they're trying to be American, and then at home they've got these foreign parents. Did they have some discomfort? Because I think for a lot of kids early on, it's maybe especially teenage years, you kind of want to distance yourself from your parents anyway.
I don't think so. I don't feel it that way anyway.
Okay.
So they adapted, and then I think in the school now they're getting more Asian people come in the school, and there's a few more that came in the Hudsonville school.
So the culture of the town is changing.
Yes, it's changing.
Okay.
Yeah, by the years it's changing.
More welcoming.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you have your own business.
Yes, I do.
Tell me about the Creative Needle.
Well, I started when my husband has to work, and then he told me one day that he said, you have to help me to earn some money because my salary is cut because I'm learning the computer, although he's a professor in economy, but since he's not working in a school or in a college here. He just worked in a factory. He was in Killer Press before, and for 13 years there. So, and he said, I'm going to learn something else. He said, at that time it's computerized, everything was computerized. So he learned, and I have to help him. And that's how I started with my skill. I said, well, the only thing I can do, I stay home, is to be with sewing.
Okay.
But I worked with a boutique, several boutiques before. But and then besides that, I work at home.
I think you said you do a lot of wedding dresses, is that
Yes, mostly I specialize now in wedding dresses, yes. Okay. I do it about 4 bridal shops now. That they send it to my house, so to me. So,
for some reason I've noticed, and actually not just my observation, but they've shown numbers that immigrants start their own businesses, are more entrepreneurial at a rate of 2 times the native population. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I learned it from when I was young, from my mother maybe. My sisters don't. Each has a different skill. One is a hairdresser, one is more, doing flowers and all that. And I follow her footsteps. And sewing is a dying art, especially alteration, especially here. And you really have to know what to do with sewing. You just cannot tuck here and tuck there and do things. I used to design, copy a dress, but that takes so much work and so much time. So I try to stay away from that and just do more the alteration like that. So. And I enjoy meeting my brides and make them happy, and especially the mother too.
It's a very special time.
Yes,
so that's really a very nice niche for you to be able to embrace.
Right. Yeah. And people know me, my quality of my sewing, so. And I love handwork with the beading and all that, so it's really feels satisfying for me that I accomplished something like that, and that's what I love. Yeah.
So, what would you recommend if there are new immigrants to Michigan? What advice would you give them about how they can make Michigan their own place?
I have friends here, and they were all asking me what to do, and I give them advice. You just have to try and work hard for it, and every dream, it will come true. So, and then do things what you can do and try to start slow and from little, from small, to have a business. And then from there, you can spread it out. And that's how I started.
What do you do because we all tend to be a little bit afraid, although immigrants are not afraid because they've picked up and moved their whole lives, sometimes shy about venturing out. What kinds of things help you get outside the house? What gets you involved in the community?
Well, I started a store in Eastbrook Mall. And I have a partner. And at that time, I have some people that work for us. And our culture is more, you're quiet, you're shy, more passive more?
Passive?
Yeah,
sure.
More passive like that. So I don't say much. But my workers, the one that work for us, she always likes me, and she said, Lana, don't keep quiet. You have to say something. So I start opening up my mouth too. That's how I learned.
Becoming more assertive,
daring.
more American.
Yes. That's how I came out too. And when somebody do wrong, I just tell them the way it is. So I start opening up my mouth too. So.
You also mentioned that you enjoy ballroom dancing.
Yes, I love it. I love it. That's how I met. My husband passed away 10 years ago, and I met a wonderful man about 4 years after he passed away, and I met at the Ballroom Dancing in the studio. And I'm engaged with him now. After 5 years, he proposed to me, and it's the site where my husband was. And I never thought I can second chance in life. And here I am. I'm going to take the plunge.
Well, you've clearly shown a history of taking plunges your whole life. So we wish you the best with your upcoming wedding. And thank you so much for stopping by and talking with us today.
Well, appreciate it. I feel like I belong here now in Michigan, and that's what it is.
That's the secret.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And to our viewers, please stay with us because we'll be back in just a moment for our follow-up segment called What'd You Say? During our conversation with Lana, you heard her say seamstress. This is a woman who does sewing and alterations for a living. You also heard Lana say bahasa. This is the Indonesian name for the Indonesian language. And in Indonesian, it actually means language. For more difficult expressions and phrases that you may have heard during the conversation, go to our website under the What'd You Say section for those explanations. In a difficult economic period, there's good news coming out of Detroit. A Dearborn-based organization is now helping entrepreneurial newcomers through classes, business coaching, and access to business incubators and financial services. The organization, called Access, recently held a graduation ceremony for its first class of the Immigrant Entrepreneur Development Program, an effort to encourage immigrant and refugee-based organizations in the Metro Detroit area. One success story is Diana Bukalo, a Bosnian refugee who settled in the Detroit suburb of Hamtramck. She came to the United States with no English, but with experience as a fashion designer. The program's coaching and classes helped her track her cash flow and build her confidence. She now has goals to hire a couple of employees with sewing and fashion experience, which is precisely the purpose of the program, to foster entrepreneurs who will then create jobs and strengthen the region. So today's salute goes to the people at Access and the intrepid entrepreneurs they graduate. A priest, a minister, and a rabbi are friends and drinking at their favorite bar. One day, another bar patron comments that bringing non-believers to God isn't really all that hard. A real challenge would be converting a bear. Many drinks later, they decide to have a competition. They would all go out into the woods, find a bear, preach to it, and attempt to convert it. The next week, they would get together and discuss the results. A week goes by, and the three are reunited at the hospital. Father Flannery, who has his arm in a sling, goes first. Well, he says, I went into the woods to find me a bear, and when I found him, I began to read to him from the catechism. Well, that bear wanted nothing to do with me and began to slap me around. So I quickly grabbed me holy water and sprinkled him, and Holy Mary, Mother of God, he became as gentle as a lamb. The bishop is coming out next week to give him First Communion and confirmation. Reverend Billy Bob, who is in a wheelchair, speaks up next. In his best fire and brimstone speech, he exclaims, well, brothers, I went out and I found me a bear. And when I began to read to my bear from God's holy word, but that bear wanted nothing to do with Scripture. So I took a hold of him and we began to wrestle. We wrestled up one hill and down another and rolled into a creek. There I quick dunked him and baptized his hairy soul. And just like you said, he became as gentle as a lamb. We spent the rest of the day praising Jesus. And then they both turn to look at the rabbi, who's lying in a hospital bed. He's in a full body cast and traction, with IVs and monitors attached everywhere. He's in bad shape. The rabbi looks up from his bed and says, "Looking back on it, circumcision may not have been the best way to start." Now, this joke has a lot of cultural aspects to it and a lot of religious vocabulary as well. For an explanation of the joke and the cultural context of religion in the United States, visit our What's So Funny webpage for this episode. Thanks for watching our show. If you have a funny story to share with us, you can write to us on Facebook, Twitter, or our website. See you next time.